Hey y'all, welcome back to Spirit of the Outdoors. Today we're going to talk about poke salad. This is pokeweed or poke bush. We have a couple of books here that we can read from to talk about it. But now this plant for years we've been told that it's poisonous. There's good reason for that. This plant can kill you. It is medicinal, it's highly medicinal. It is a good plant. The reason I wanted to do this video is everywhere I look, Facebook, everywhere you go, there's somebody asking, what is this plant? Here's a picture of it. What is this plant? Well, this is pokeweed. It has several different names that they go by, and you'll see it. It's actually spelled poke sallet, S-A-L-L-E-T, I think. A lot of people are still going to spell it poke salad. We know what you're talking about. I wouldn't worry about that. I don't think there's a right or wrong way to if somebody figures out what you're talking about, run with it. But it's poke salad. You people cook this. It's especially down here in the South. A lot of people, they take this, put these leaves, and you need to really pick the young shoots. And I have a video on how to do this. But the young plants earlier in the year, like through May, June, and the stalk will be green then. Pick those young tender leaves, boil them, pour the water out, boil it, pour the water out. Then the third time you boil it, you can cook them down, and then you can eat them boiled, or you can take them out and fry them. A lot of people fry them with eggs. But this is poke root, poke bush, poke salad. Common names: pigeonberry, garret, scote, kokum, inkberry, pokon. But it's Phytolacca decandra is a Latin term for this plant. I'm going to read you some out of this book. This is Indian Herbology of North America by Alma R. Hutchins. This is a very good book. I ordered this one, and I have one more in my bag here that I'm going to show you. These books I think are going to really interest you, because Mike Reed, I know that you were looking for a book that has dosages. This one has dosage in it. It tells you how much to use, how to make the medicine. I think this is a book that you're looking for. These plants, it'll be green during the summer, early in the year, and then it turns this red color. We're in September the 11th, so no, we have not forgotten. Today's a day of remembrance of the Twin Towers. 20-year anniversary of that. I remember exactly where I was at when it happened. But this bush is a medicinal plant. What I want to tell you before we get started, our parents, everybody says that's a poisonous plant. And everywhere you see a thread on it or a Facebook post about it, somebody's going to say, that's poisonous, that's poisonous. Technically, they're right. It has toxins in it. But now, it's not that one berry will kill you. Here's one berry. I usually eat 1 or 2 berries a day since I've been researching this plant. You'll see why here in a little bit. But it won't kill you. But I have a little boy that's 2 years old. You've seen him in previous videos. We pick mushrooms. We've rambled around this whole place, and we've picked blueberries, we've picked blackberries, we've picked chanterelle mushrooms, we've been recently picking muscadines. Figs we've picked. We ride by all these bushes, and we're steadily picking fruit. We're picking apples. So in his mind at 2 years old, everything that you see, you can eat it. Well, I've been going around and cutting, and this is one of the only bushes that I have left, because I have gotten rid of most of them, because I don't want him to come out here if he gets away from me and I ain't paying attention like I should be, and grabs and eats a bunch of them. If you sit here and just eat all these berries, they're probably going to kill you. Now how that happens to you is to be determined. From my research, I think it attacks your respiratory system, starts shutting it down. You start getting shortness of breath and gasping for breath, is my understanding. Now this is like any other medicinal drug. It could affect you differently. It's like Ritalin. One guy can take it and it calm him down. Another guy take it and it wire him up. So plants could be the same way. I would suggest the first time you use any plant, take that berry, get it on your fingers. These berries make good dye. If you're not going to use it for medicinal purposes, you can mash that and you see that that has a really violet looking purplish pink color to it. Wipe that off on my pine straw paper here, my natural toilet paper or paper towel. I don't use that for toilet paper. But I'm going to suggest that anytime you start experimenting with a new plant, whether it be for medicinal or you looking for an edible, take a little bit of this plant, break it up like that, rub it on a tender spot of your skin somewhere, and wait a couple of hours and see if it starts, you maybe have an allergic reaction, because this plant could be harmless to me in the correct amounts. And then you could have an allergic reaction to it because it is very potent and it could mess you up. So test stuff, and I would suggest that with anything. But in this plant right here, this book right here, we're going to read a little bit about this plant. The features in it, it says, poke is a strong smelling perennial herb of the family Phytolacea. I think I pronounced that right. Poke is native to the United States from Maine to Florida and westward to Minnesota and to Texas. Found in dry fields, hillsides, the roadsides. The root matures to a very large size, and I'm going to show you that in a minute. We're going to dig one up. It is easily cut or broken, and the fleshy fibrous tissues covered with a thin brownish bark. The stems are annual, about 1 inch in diameter, round, smooth, green when young, and grow to 3 to 12 foot, turning red. You see, this is in September, it's done turned a dark red looking color. It says to 12 foot tall. Now, I have never seen one much over about 6 to 7 foot, but it says they can get to 12 foot. The small greenish white flowers appear in July and August, surrounded by dense foliage, followed by dark purple berries, which ripen in late summer and autumn and are nearly globular, each containing 10 carpels. I don't know what that means. The berries are only collected when fully matured. The young shoots and seedlings are often eaten, the former like asparagus, the latter like spinach. Make sure the root is scrupulously removed before using as a table vegetable. The root is not to be just eaten raw, in other words. Phytolactin is an active principle. Poke has a long history of usefulness in medicine. It is toxic in too large of amount, and persons using it should understand both its value and its limitations. The medicinal part is the roots and the berries, dilute in alcohol or boiling water. Bodily influence: emetic, cathartic, alterative, and deobstruent. Uses: preparation and dosage vary considerably. Now, Mike Reed, this is the part that you would probably be interested in. Vary considerably with the condition of the root. Thurston, Hammer, and other medical practitioners recommend that only the green root should be used, owing its rapid deterioration. Poke helps greatly in detoxicating the system from poisonous congestions. It stimulates metabolism and is useful for medication of the undernourished. Poke has a credible influence when the lymphatic glands, spleen, particularly the thyroid glands, are enlarged. Excellent in geotry, not giardia, but geotry, however you say that, internally and externally. Hardening of the liver and reduced biliary flow. The root excites the whole glandular system and is very useful in the removal of mercuriosyphilitic affection, scrofula, and chronic skin disease. Very few, if any, of the alternatives have superior power to poke if properly gathered and prepared for medicinal uses. Both the berries and the root have high recognition for the treatment of rheumatism and arthritis, especially when used with black cohosh and prickly ash. Poke is indicated and should be combined with formulas for throat conditions when membrane is dark in color, tonsils swollen, shooting pains through the ear with difficulty in swallowing. Now dose, my bad Mike, right here, dose. Tincture of phytolacca. I can't get this word right. Phytolacca. Alone, 2 to 5 drops, as frequently as indicated by symptoms. As a decoction, 1 tablespoonful of the root, leaves, or berries cut small to 1 pint of boiling water, steeped 10 minutes. Take a mouthful at a time, several times a day. The juice of the ripe berries, preserved in syrup, may be used in teaspoonful doses every 3 hours. So this gives you the dosage right here. But I'm going to put this book up now, and I've got one more book that I did want to share with you. I've ordered these. Now, both of these 2 books I got from thriftbooks.com. They're used books. In fact, the other one had some writing on the inside of the cover and down the spine, or down the pages on this edge. I took sandpaper and sanded it and got the name off. But this is the herb book by John Lust. It's got a lot of plants in it that some of the other books that I had didn't cover. And it's both of these books only have stencil drawings. This one says it's got 275 line drawings, and it does not have one for each plant. So I don't know exactly how many plants are in this book. I don't see where it says right here anywhere. But anyway, Phytolacca americana is what it's called in this book. Now I don't know if these names change or if there's 2 variations in the species, but this is pokeweed. Common names: kokum, inkberry, pigeonberry, poke, poke root, redweed, and skoke. Medicinal parts: roots, leaves, fruit. I'm going to read out of this one the same as I did the other book, because some of the properties are a little bit different in each one. And I'm sure it just depends on the author and how much they studied. I always, when I'm doing a plant, I cross it in at least 2 books. Most of the time I'll read about it in every book I've got, which I've got about 5 or 6, 7 books with medicinal properties, and every plant won't be in every book. So I look on the internet and at least 2 of my paperback books before I do anything with these plants. Description: pokeweed is a perennial plant native to North America and other parts of the world. In the U.S., it is found in damp soils and along the edges of woods from Maine to Florida and Texas. The large fleshy root is covered with a thin brown bark. It produces stems that are green when young and purplish later, reaching a height of 4 to 12 foot, 1 inch in diameter. The alternate, simple entire leaves are oblong or ovate, lanceolate, and acute or acuminate. Numerous small white and greenish white flowers grow in peduncular reams around July and August, followed by clusters of round purple berries which contain a crimson juice. Properties and uses: anodyne, cathartic. Pokeweed has been most commonly used for its laxative properties. The root dried has been found in application in relieving pain, reducing inflammation, treating rheumatism and arthritis, and combating skin parasites and diseases. The juice of the fruit has been used variously to treat cancer, hemorrhoids, and tremors. The sprouts of the young plants are sometimes eaten as pot herbs after being boiled in 2 changes of water. Caution: the fresh or insufficiently cooked plant is poisonous, particularly the root. The seeds and the berries are also poisonous and are particularly hazardous for children. Preparation and dosage. Use of the dried root and leaves. Use the berries without the seeds. Infusion or decoction. Use 1 teaspoon or 1 tablespoon root or leaves with 1 pint of water. Take 1 teaspoon at a time as needed. Tincture as a dose, 2 to 5 drops. And that's out of the Herb book by John Lust. It's a small paperback. I would pair either one of these books up with a Peterson's Field Guide because it has good color photos in it for the field. Like I showed you, I eat one of these berries and you see the description of these leaves and you see how this plant is shaped. What I want to do now is I want to dig up a root, and I've got a couple of small ones, dead ones back over here. We're going to move probably right over here. This one that already don't have any leaves, and we're going to dig this root up. I want you to see because I want to dig these up. I don't want them growing right here on the side of my yard. I have plenty of it back down in the edge of the woods. I try to keep them away from my little boy finding them. Now, from what I've researched, the seeds in these berries hold a lot of the medicinal and poisonous stuff. But to the point that if you crush that seed, it's too toxic. You don't need to do that. This root, if you just got that root, it is one of the most toxic parts of it. But it's also the most medicinal. So when it says you need to understand its uses and its limitations, you need to understand that when you go to food this is very toxic, very potent. So it's not recommended for everybody just to go to making random medicine. There's plenty of other medicines out there for like rheumatism and other stuff, so until you know what you're doing, I wouldn't use this plant. However, I've been studying on it for a while. I've used it a little bit. I have cooked it before and eat it. I know my body reacts well to it, and I just want to show you this root, so stick with me and we're going to dig this root up. All right, clear some of this stuff out of the way here. Now this is the edge of my property here. There's junk, boards and stuff laying around that's been buried and forgotten. Now this plant, if you cut this down right here, you see it's done been cut one time by the shape of that, if you can tell right there. And I'll zoom in just a second when I get a little of this dirt out of the way, where you can kind of look at how it's doing. Because as long as you cut this down, it's going to continue to come back. And I've got a lot of pine tree roots right here, so I have dug a couple of these up because I was trying to get rid of them out of my yard. Well, that come on down. Let me take this bag off here. I don't know how much of this. I'm going to go ahead and cut this off. Stalk off. Now you see this root, there was a tap root that continued on down. It may put back out, I don't know. But you see that is a very large root. Very good size. You could make a lot of medicine out of this, I would assume. I've never made medicine out of it. But I did want to show you this plant, tell you what I knew about it, help you to be able to identify pokeweed. But I did not realize how big this root is. The other ones I dug up right here because I just want to stop these from growing in this one area just because of my little boy. Like I said, I have plenty of it growing all over the place, so there's no shortage of pokeberries or pokeweed if I need it. If you'll stick with me, I'm going to show you these other roots. Put my shovel up. And got my bag with my books. I had to do a little bit of cleaning earlier. This plant here. And right here is a couple of the other ones that I had dug up. And see how this one has these long, fibrous. Now these have been drying a little bit. And that one broke off about the same as this one, but that is a very large root. I'm going to dry these. We're going to make some medicine out of them. I doubt I'm going to put that on a video because I'm going to have to do some experimenting, a little more in-depth of a research. So that's the ramrod off my rifle. I don't need to let anything happen to that. But I got some blue vervain right here hanged up drying. So we bite through gathering medicinal plants this year. I just wanted you to see this, see what the plant looked like, know what it was, how to identify it, kind of the time frame. And I'll be honest with you, I was a little bit shocked on these roots. I just really didn't realize that they were that large. And you can keep mowing this down, it'll keep putting back out. I've got some that I cut down early in the year with a lawnmower that was growing up around my grapevine. And before I knew it, they was back up waist high. So you have to dig this up to absolutely stop it from growing. Like I said, if I've got young kids, I would just say, hey, this is a poisonous plant. Leave it alone. Don't mess with it. I have not let my little boy see me eat any of those berries. I have not let him see me dig this plant up and food with it. As far as he knows right now, we don't touch it. And that's the reason our grandparents told us these plants were poisonous, because you don't want to come out here and find your kid picking berries off of it and eating them. So don't get in front of them and say, hey, this is a medicinal plant, we can use this. Just don't, it's just safer that way. And that's why our grandparents told us that. That's why there's a long history of, hey, that's a poisonous plant, because technically they were right. But anyway, I was toting my bag around and never did. I was about to thirst to death out here. It's cooling off a little, but it's still pretty warm right here in Mississippi. I turned a good Gatorade bottle into a canteen here. They're good thick bottles, and I spray painted it green. I don't care much about bright colors. But anyway, thank y'all for watching my video. We'll see y'all next time on Spirit of the Outdoors. Remember, the best way to do things, the way you like to do it. We'll see y'all.